Chapter 1. Asher was in the garage inspecting a beast of a lawnmower when the police arrived. The grass needed mowing, and he was determined to get it done himself. After all, wasn't that the whole point of living alone in this quiet neighborhood in this small house? The aging ranch with its shaggy lawn and overgrown shrubs tucked away in the Los Angeles suburbs was a clear indication of his meteoric fall. Torrance was the closest he allowed himself to get to Hollywood. Any closer and he was sure he'd get into trouble. Asher didn't question the hows and whys of where he was now. He was alive, and he was here. That was all he needed to start over. The mower was heavier than he had expected. It smelled of grease and gasoline. The arbitrary upbringing his parents had begrudgingly provided hadn't included a lot of practical instruction, like cooking, laundry, or starting a lawnmower. He was poking around in the hopes of finding a manual when a shadow crossed the doorway. Asher blinked against the glare reflecting off the cement to see two figures in black suits approaching. Asher Blaine? A bald man and a blonde woman presented badges. "I'm Detective Bloodsoe," the man said. He indicated the woman. "And this is Detective Smythe." Asher's heart sank, and with it his place in the present. How many times had he been arrested for being over his head in his vices? A stampede of memories. Handcuffs, rough hands, and angry voices engulfed him. A car honked out on the street, and his persnickety neighbor's scolding reply brought Asher hurtling back to his new reality. He was clean and innocent of any wrongdoing. He might not have a clue as to what he should be doing with the shiny new life he'd struggled to create, but everything in it had to be done right. With a sincere smile, he offered his hand. "Pleased to meet you." The woman looked surprised. She had a look on her face that sized him up and found him lacking. He'd seen a version of it on the faces of teachers, nurses, and pretty girls who wanted stability and a husband. One more obstacle for him to work through. "What can I do for you, detectives?" "Your fingerprint showed up in a murder we're investigating," Bloodsoe said. Asher backed up a step. "Murder? My God, who's dead?" "Where were you between the hours of midnight and 2 a.m. on Tuesday?" Smythe asked, a look halfway between boredom and disgust on her face. "Asleep?" "You answered that too fast," she said. "I'm a good boy now. In bed by 11. "Alone?" Bloodsoe asked as he pulled out a notebook. "Yes." The detective made a note that seemed a lot longer than a simple affirmative. Sweat slid down Asher's back, despite the cool air in the garage. Smythe glared at him. "Can anyone confirm your whereabouts?" Asher ran his hands through his hair, leaving a smudge of grease on his temples. "You want proof I was asleep?" The detective frowned at him. "Yeah, I do." Despite the frown, Bloodsoe had a much gentler look to his round face. His full lips and brown eyes were bracketed with assorted smile lines. Stocky, but not pudgy, his clothes fit him comfortably. Unaccountably, Asher found himself wanting his approval. "No, I don't have any proof that I was home, alone in my bed, asleep." The synthetic jingle of an ice cream truck trickled in around his rising hysteria, making it seem that much more surreal. Asher's eyes strayed beyond the detective's shoulders to see the imminent circus brewing out front. There were patrol officers stationed across the front yard. He could see at least 2 police cars with lights flashing parked in the street, and a growing crowd of neighbors. All it needed was a covey of reporters and a ringmaster. "Okay, look, this is a mistake, but I'll do whatever, to sort this out. What do you need? Urine sample? Blood?" "I didn't do anything." Smythe pulled out her handcuffs. "We've got evidence that says otherwise." Asher's eyes locked on the cuffs. This had to be a nightmare. I really didn't do this." He took a breath to steady his voice. "But I'll go with you." "Do we really need—" He nodded towards the cuffs. Smythe looked angry enough to spit. She seized his wrist in a bruising grip. "You're a murder suspect. What do you think?"